Hi, everybody. Welcome to Mental Health Live. My name is Morgan, and I'm going to go over the disclaimer again due to we had some people that joined afterwards. So the recording disclosure, please note that we are recording this workshop. If you would rather be incognito, please turn off your camera and change your name or remove your name. We are not recording content from the breakout sessions. Conference comfort agreements. We ask participants to please honor the conference comfort agreement found on page 6 of your conference program. Peer support to peer support specialists. If at any time you need peer support, please visit www.peerpocalypse.com for the list of the on-call peer support specialist or the David Rompey, Oregon warm line. Questions and comments. We ask participants to please keep themselves on mute. If you have questions or comments for the presenter, please use the Q&A or chat box. Thanks, everybody. And now I'm going to turn it over.
Hello, everybody. Welcome. It's good to see everybody. I think it's afternoon, so good afternoon. I am Braunwynn Franklin, and I am in Oak Park, Michigan as of the moment. Former Oregonian as of a few months back. We're going to do some breakout discussions later on, and I'm going to kind of give you some background around that now, and then I'll repeat it later. So we're going to break out into some groups. I'm going to give you all a question, and you discuss the question amongst yourselves. And I would like just one person to be the spokesperson to come back and kind of share what went on in the group. And we have a couple of guest speakers. My co-host is going to be on video because I had a co-host when I started putting this together, but due to COVID, and we're in two different places, and just the whole Zoom thing, he wasn't able to be in person, but he videotaped all his parts. So it's going to be pretty amazing. So I'm going to start the show, and we're going to have some discussion and some talk.
Good morning, good evening, or good.
My fault. I'm sorry. Can you hear everything? Sorry. I was trying to move my...
Are you putting a video on?
Good evening or good afternoon.
Yes.
Are you sharing a screen?
Those of you who join us for Mental Health Live, thank you, Braunwynn. I'm appreciating you for all that you are doing and trying to host a live engagement opportunity for people using Mental Health Live on the Zoom platform that we have. Thank you, each and every one of you, for joining us. Unfortunately, because of the COVID-19 season that we're in, we're doing this the best way that we can via different streams and different media outlets. Our original goal was to have a workshop that's really interactive with each of you, between us and yourselves, to simulate a talk show experience, complete with lights, camera, sound, guest giveaways, and much more. But this is the best that we can do for right now. So we do thank you each for being with us. And I am your co-host temporarily with Braunwynn Franklin as your host. So, Mental Health Live, welcome.
Braunwynn, we can't see a screen. Are you sharing a screen?
I thought I was. Let me stop this and try to share the screen again. I think it's on mute. Let me try to do that again. Let me go back and go out because it's not doing what I needed to do. And I apologize to everybody. Okay, let me see if this does it. Can you see it now?
Yes.
Okay. All right, let's go on to the next slide. I'm sorry about that. Okay, so you got a chance. I hope you were able to hear Mario. So my name again is Braunwynn Franklin, and I am a certified peer support specialist. I'm certified in the state of Washington, the state of Oregon, and in the state of Michigan. I have been on several different committees, and as of last night, I was just brought on to a board of directors for the National Coalition on Mental Health Recovery. I'm also on the full-time board of directors and Operation Night Watch board of directors in Portland, Oregon, who they work with giving hospitality to people who are houseless. So I wear a lot of hats. I do a lot of things. Mental health has been my challenge for probably quite a bit of my life, most of my life. And I have learned how to navigate and move through my toolbox. And so I want to check in and kind of check and see where everybody else is at and what they think about that. And a part of my story was my mental health took me to prison for quite a bit of time. So with that, that shifted my focus. And I just want to ask people what they know and what they think. Okay. Okay.
All right, so for our first question, Bronwyn, why do some people with diverse mental states end up in the prison system?
So I say diverse because everybody has different types of mental health challenges. It's not all the same, and it's diverse. So we can't just put a person in a box. So I use the question diverse. So what we're going to do now is we're going to break out into breakout sessions. I would like you all to have a discussion about the question, why do some people have with diverse mental health states end up in prison, and pick one person from your breakout group to be the spokesperson to talk back. Like Mario said, we was trying to have it where we took polls, we had different people out, you could raise your hand, get gifts and prizes, but we're not able to do that. So we kind of switched it up. So breakout groups is the best I can kind of do right now. And then we'll come back and talk about it. Is that okay with everybody? Can I see some hands? That's good. Good. Thank you. Okay.
Hi. I think most of you are on mute. We might have to start this breakout room again.
Yeah, I'm back. I was in a breakout room, but I got pulled back out of it.
Okay.
How do we know if we're, because I wasn't put in a breakout room at all. I've just been on this page.
We're in a breakout room right now,
Oh, okay.
but I think there's something going on with this and it's trying to close it out in 10 seconds. So we'll have to start it over again. Okay. So what do you guys think about that question? Hello? You have to unmute.
We only had 52 seconds and we didn't have enough time to discuss anything.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on. I think that was on me. So what do you feel about diverse of mental health and diverse of going into prison?
Well, I just took on a new role today and I named the title of Reentry Advocacy Consultant Specialist. How's that sound?
Oh, wow.
And now I'm being invited back to join Breakout Room 3.
Yeah, I don't know. I think I might have.
I don't know
done
if I
this.
should join. And there's a Ryan Hammett.
Yeah, which group?
I was in room 3.
Okay. Yeah,
With,
I don't know what happened.
I didn't write their names down, but I don't know if I should join again.
I can add you in one of the rooms. Would you like me to add you in one of the rooms? I don't think anybody else is talking on here. So, um,
I didn't
would you
think I
like
could.
me? Hmm.
Well, how many? I just lost my.
There's just us two, and then there's 3 others, but they're not speaking. So, I mean, I guess one of us could be the presenters and talk about it.
Should I join Breakout Room 3 again?
I can add you to it.
Because it's asking me to join.
Oh, yeah, then join it.
Because I did it before, we only had 50 seconds. Let me do that.
Okay.
Okay, I want to share my screen. Let me get back into the shared screen and see if I can get back to where I need to be. See if I can get that to work. How's that?
No.
No? Okay, I'm gonna come back out again. Let me close this out, try it again. So as everybody's coming in, my question is going to be, did you get an opportunity to pick a spokesperson?
Yes, we did.
Okay. So who would like to go first?
I'll go, if no one else wants to.
Can you see the screen? Can you see the PowerPoint?
Yes.
Cool. Come on, share.
Okay, so I was in a group with June, and we came up with some reasons people end up in prison. Stigma, lack of understanding by the courts, a lack of support, lack of advocacy, lack of legal representation, lack of proper treatment, and not diverting to proper treatment. So that's what we came up with.
Excellent, excellent. I like that. Who wants to go next?
I'll go next.
Okay, so I see Deborah, then Travis.
We had a lot of the same ones. I'll just read them all. Lack of a support system, misunderstood, lack of resources, including health and good mental health treatment, inadequate training by police or of police, labeling somebody without listening to them well, listening to them openly, ignorance about mental health conditions, trauma, lack of compassion, stereotyping, stigma, and prejudice, lack of cultural understanding regarding mental states.
I like that. I like that. I heard something that wasn't in the other group, which was great. Awesome. Go ahead, Travis.
Yeah, you guys covered a lot of what we discussed about the stigma and lack of understanding and that kind of thing. We also talked about how like kind of the underlying theme of fear surrounding it, like you know, people acting in extremes scares people. The stigma around mental health causes people to, you know, freak out kind of and not really talk about it, you know, because it's taboo. And then that leads to fear, you know. We talk about the difference between prison and jail, because sometimes they get lumped into the same category, and how, you know, motivation to keep mentally ill people in prison could be that they're run for profit, and that kind of ties into the whole people not advocating for them. Yeah, that's pretty much what I got.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you. Any other groups that need to go forth and
I'll
speak?
go 7.
Hi, Seven. Go ahead.
So I was in a group with Martha, and a lot of what we shared together was talked about, but a lack of knowledge, especially coming from the police, not knowing the difference, or not knowing if a person is high and has mental health or just has mental health. Also, traumatic experiences is a huge one, because someone could be getting arrested because they have mental health going on, but something traumatic happened to them years ago, and the police officers don't know that. And so they're using force, which then the people that are being arrested or taken to jail, they're reacting like, okay, well, I have to listen to them. And the police officers are like, yeah, you better listen to me. like what I say goes, not even thinking they could be in a mental state that's, you know, not good for anybody, you know. A lack of knowledge is really big.
Thank you for that. That was pretty nice. That may hit some things on point. What group wants to be next? I think it might be one more group.
Yes, that's my group. I'm group 3 with Caesar, Charlotte, and Cheryl. And so you guys pretty much touched on everything that we discussed. The only thing that we spoke about that is not on the list is white racism, is also the reason why people end up in the prison system as well and have mental issues too.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. So I'm just going to share a little bit from my background as well, and what you all shared. And it's all of that and more. The biggest piece is in some states like Texas and a few other states, because it is privatized, they have diverted all their funding from mental health services to the prison system. So there's a lack of mental health services in at least 5 or 6 states, that actually has a high prison number of inmates with mental health diagnosis. 7 hit a key point, their group hit a key point, and that was kind of my story. It was the lack of knowledge. That was my son's story, the lack of knowledge. He was having a mental health state, and a lot of people thought it was drug use because of the fact that he was acting in schizophrenia, the talking to himself and the acting out and the different things. They wanted to contribute that to drug use. One, because in the Black culture, we don't talk about mental health. In Black culture, you pull yourself up by the bootstraps, nothing's wrong with you, you shake it off, or it's drug use, you know. And if you do have a uncle or aunt that's got issues, they used to back in the day wrap around them, take them in, put them in the back room somewhere, and take care of them. That's how the Black community has dealt with it. When I was in a manic state, and I did cause some harm to somebody. However, I had no prior record. Because I was not getting the proper mental health support, because I wouldn't take the medication because of the way it was making me feel, and nobody was listening to it. So it was just a combination of a lot of different things. And the lack of no support, because I shut down my mental health. I didn't share with my family because of the stigma in our Black community, because it's huge. It's huge. So all of the things that everybody just talked about was like hit the nail on the head. Perfectly on point. What I shared in the group, and Travis alluded, kind of hit on it, is a lot of people use the term jail and prison interchangeably. And as peer supports, we have learned not to take away from somebody else's experience, because that's their experience, not our experience. And when you say jail and you're meaning prison, you just taken away from somebody's experience, because jail is a temporary setting. And it is definitely a harder living in the prisons, in the jail system, because it is so temporary. So you don't get the showers, you don't get the food, it's a lot of things you don't get when you're in jail, because that's temporary custody, temporary. When you go to prison, this is your new living, this is your new home. So that's why I when I hear people do that, I speak up, because jail is a lot harder than prison, believe it or not. So there we have that. Any comments or questions? Anything about that?
Hey, Bronwyn, I have a question.
Go ahead.
So when you talk about jail, how, like, what could be the time frame? I mean, you said temporary, but is that truly temporary, or can it go on and on?
So jail, with jail, you are supposedly only be able to be held in a jail for 1 year. If you are sentenced to anything or you go on to prison, but if it's less than a year, they can keep you at the jail. Jail is supposed to be 1 year, and our Constitution says you have a right to a speedy trial. So you're supposed to go to trial within 180 days. Okay, so if you go to trial within that 180 days, if you get a prison sentence, usually you go from the jail to the prison within a week. They hurry up and what they call ride you out, because they are no longer getting paid for you in the jail. Prison's getting paid for you once you get that sentence. So most of it is you can only stay in a jail supposedly up to 1 year. There was a black gentleman in New York, and they held him in custody for 3 years, and he had a mental health challenge, and it aspirated in there, and he had no advocates. He had nobody to help him. Eventually, he was released, but the sad part about it was, within a year of being released, he completed suicide because they had taken and isolated him for 3 years in this jail, which just took it, and then he had no mental health treatment. So it's a pretty ugly revolving door. So we're going to go on to our next piece.
Thank you, Braunwynn. What are some basic human rights that are stripped from people in prison?
So I almost went into that a few minutes ago. What are some of the basic human rights you all think of? So here's an opportunity again. We were going to do the hand raise and gift thing, but whatever. So I'm going to just do the best I can. And if Morgan can change up who's in the breakout rooms, let's break out for 6 minutes and get a different set of voices together, and allowing a spokesperson to come back and feed the group, and then I'll talk on it some more. How's that?
Sounds good. Let me mix them up.
All right. See you all when you get back.
Bear with me, y'all.
There's a movie, somebody said his name was Khalif Browder, Browder. And there's a movie on Netflix about his life right now, a documentary about the young man I talked about in the New York jail for 3 years.
What's the name of it, Bronwynn?
Go look in the chat. It's
okay. You put it in chat. I see. Okay.
Okay.
Right.
So are we in a group? Oh, okay. Here we go.
Everybody just make sure to click to join.
So Bronwyn, you're not going to help me out, huh? I can't hear you.
No, time. I'm going to try to get this screen share back up so I can get my screen back up and everybody can see what's going on. How's that? Can you see the screen? Everybody see the screen?
No.
Nope.
No.
No.
Man, this thing is getting real frustrating. Okay. Let me figure it out again. Try to figure it out. Okay. Oh, now.
Got it.
Coming? Okay. So now let me go to current slide up. How's that? Okay. Everybody back? Welcome back. Hopefully I know it's not enough time for a lot of discussion, but we don't have a lot of time and we got a couple more breakouts. So who'd like to be the spokesperson for group number 1?
That would be me.
Okay, Molly, let's see what you got.
We said you lose your freedom, your opportunity to be a part of society, the freedom to make choices, to move freely, body autonomy. You lose the basic decisions about what you eat, when you sleep, when you shower, when you're active, and you have the risk of being penalized at any point by anything punishable of up to solitary confinement.
Yeah. How about group 2? Yeah.
That's me. Okay. Lack of information, lack of basic health care, no choices about anything, lack of access to toilet paper, toiletries, showers, or you have to wait a long time. The system expects you to already know everything or you're treated badly. Loss of communication with the outside world. It's expensive. It could be limited in time or rules. No emotional support, no mental health care, loss of parenting rights or access to children, and improper detox from drugs and alcohol.
Wow, great, great. How about group 3? I think that was Lauren. Lauren?
Oh, are you talking about me? I thought you said Lori. Okay.
Lauren. Sorry.
Oh, okay. That's okay. Yeah. So Bronwyn and Cesar and myself, we talked about most of the things that have been mentioned, basic needs and rights, things like, the comforts, like, I mean, not comforts, but basic things like showers and toiletries and good nutrition, things like that. And then we also talked about, Cesar brought up due process. So just not being able to get through things in a reasonable amount of time. And I would add to that, I liked the answer about information. So like in keeping with that, like, the fact that you might not know about what's going on. So you're just sitting there waiting. So I think that's about, we talked about healthcare and mental health care and how important mental health care is, whether you have a diagnosis or not, once you get in. So I think that was about all we covered.
Yeah, sounds good. Group number 4.
Right, so for group number 4, we have a lot of the same that have already been said, but lack of good mental and physical health care, lack of supplies such as hygiene supplies, with COVID, including masks, hand sanitizers, hand soaps. Their liberty has been taken in general. Being able to stay in contact with friends and family, reaching out for support, lack of basic comforts, including like sleep comforts, so like blankets and pillows. And then for after prison, loss of career and job opportunities.
Yeah, yeah. The after prison stuff, that's hard. That's a good point. That's a good point. And was there 5 groups? Did we get 5? Were we able to get 5? Number 5.
So for our group, we mentioned a lot of what was said, but we also said when it comes right down to it, you're not treated as human. So even though you might have rights in writing, you're not treated anymore as human. You're a number. You know, everything that we consider human rights is taken away, and like the due process, even though that's a law, it doesn't happen. You know, safety, medical care, mental health care, kind of the idea of human rights in prison really doesn't exist because you're not treated as human.
Absolutely. Absolutely, Martha. Everything everybody just shared is absolutely right. That is absolutely how it is in there. No good nutrition, which adds to poor health. If you already had poor health, you're not going to get good health in there. Mental health treatment is very, very limited. I was there 8.5 years. I saw my therapist every 6 weeks. I saw the prescriber every 6 months. I knew people who were a lot more severe than I was, and they were locked inside 23 hours a day. So they were only able to leave their units and come outside for 1 hour. Okay? And that just aspirated their symptoms because now they're isolated inside the prison where they're already isolated from the rest of the world. Yes, there's no privacy. Yes, there is a lack of information. And the sad part about it is some of the inmates don't realize that they, by law, federal law, have access to a law library to understand the things around due process. However, many of the people that's in the prison population can't read and write. So who's going to help them understand it? Basic right, due process. They can't read the law because they have a second-grade education. And that ended them up into the prison system because whatever they were doing in the world to survive, because they had all these other limitations and trauma, ended them up in prison. So you do all the things that you all listed, basic human rights. Yes, if you're a mother, you can lose your children if you are sentenced to more than 2 years. I had no clue until the judge got ready to sentence me. And my dad said, I'll step up and take the children to keep my 3 children out of foster care. You know, so, but I didn't know. We don't know. We are educating ourselves to educate each other, to educate the next person. Lack of human contact. We need visits. If it's nothing but the volunteer. Highlight of my week was when the churches came in on Sunday to volunteer. Because we got to see other people. We got to interact. Because you can't touch one another. That's against the rules. So yeah, you lose a lot of your basic things that we take for granted out here. Absolutely. Thank you all for that. We're going to do, I think, another breakout in a minute. Let's see here. Let's see what my co-host has to say.
Hi.
All right. For those of you who just joined us, this is Mental Health Live. I'm your co-host, Mario Odighizuwa, and your host, Braunwynn Franklin. We are here with Peer Apocalypse 2020, doing our best using online platforms to convey to you as much as we can, given the COVID-19. We have several different topics that we're going to be covering, and we may have covered some. Feel free to sit back, kick back, relax, and enjoy the rest of the workshop.
There was a comment in the box, human connections. Babies die if they're not picked up and held, if they don't have food and shelter. We all do need some connection. You know, babies, it's called the lack of thriving when babies aren't held and yeah, they don't thrive. So we're going to continue on with our Mental Health Live program. Up next is we wanted to interview a couple of more people, but COVID hit and we weren't able to get any direct interviews, but we was able to speak to a primary care physician named Nick Cashy, and he's going to talk a little bit to us about some things. Can everybody see him?
All right, good morning, Peer Apocalypse, or good afternoon for those of you who are with us. We're here at Mental Health Live, and I'm here with Dr. Nick Cashy. And he's going to answer a few questions for us. Thank you for being with us, Dr. Cashy. So the first question is, what is MCAG, which is the Mental Health Clinical Advisory Group, and your role as it relates to the advisory group?
So the MCAG is a group of providers and representatives from various behavioral health organizations that was put together by the Oregon Health Authority, by the OHA, with the charge of creating some guidelines to have to develop consistent approaches to various behavioral health conditions. These are guidelines that are going to be accessible for clinicians as well as anyone who works in the behavioral health field, trying to make sure that we all have a consistent and standardized approach to managing different conditions, both from the standpoint of medications as well as all the other adjunct therapies and resources that we offer to patients. One of the things we know is that a lot of resources tend to change on a rapid basis, and so trying to make sure that people have knowledge and access to all the various resources out there is especially important. I'm a primary care clinician, so and I work in a rural community, and so making sure that people have guidance and again resources is really helpful for people seeking out, especially in
Awesome, thank you. And the second question that we have for you today is, psychotropic medications are a controversial issue amongst the...
I want to stop it right there, because we're going to talk about that a little bit in a minute. But Dr. Cashy is on a advisory group called MyCAC. And I might not be pronouncing that just right. How many people in this on this chat are actually on advisory councils? Just if you can, just a show of hands if you're on advisory councils. Okay, I see one here. How many others? So with a show of hands, okay, let me see what's in the chat. Okay, so I see two people, because I'm not seeing everybody right now. So when I say a council, basically most councils, they come together, they're like committees, they meet, they're supposed to talk about different things, share certain things, help guide certain functions, such as when I was in Oregon, I was on the OCAC committee, which is the Oregon Consumer Advisory Council. And part of what we were supposed to do is come up with different recommendations to speak to OHA about to help kind of change some of the mental health system. And it was for consumers of services. So we had people that were on there from mental health, from the children's program, from the gambling programs, and we would sit there, and that's kind of what we were charged to do. So that's what I meant by if you want a council. So I think I've seen a couple of people that said that they were on councils. So my question is this, and I'm not trying to put anybody on Front Street, but on those councils, do you feel like your voice is being heard? Anybody chime in? Take yourself off mute. In the chat box, our dear friend Kevin Fitz is on there, which is a great friend of mine who sits on the council, was on the council with me. He just put some information in there about the Oregon Consumer Advisory Council. So there's that in there. So you can check that out. Check out the Oregon, because they're probably looking for some members, because I know I stepped down because I'm in Michigan now. I'm no longer in Oregon. Yeah, so when I was sitting on some other committees, it felt like my voice was not being heard. Even though I had a seat at the table, I was still not being heard as an advocate. So as we're moving through this presentation, we're going to talk about what do we need to do, or how can we do it to start to advocate better in these systems, in our mental health system, in our prison systems. We just talked a lot about diverse states in prison. We just spent a whole lot of talk about that. We just spent a whole lot of talk about the human rights that's lost. You know, we as peer support specialists, I think for me, a part of what I felt that role endured was for me to advocate, for me to speak up, for me to be a voice for those that didn't have a voice or didn't know how to have a voice. So in our next breakout session, which is coming up shortly, we're going to talk about how do we do that? What does that look like? You know, what does that look like? Let me see, what's this video here?
All right, next question. What does advocacy look like to reset the momentum in order to make social change?
So what I would like to say with that was, back when the movement started, the consumer movement, consumer survivor, ex-patient movement started, there was a lot of advocacy going on. They were standing up and they were fighting for the rights that we have today, you know, and they're not the greatest, but we do have the Olmstead Act. We do have the Americans with Disability Act. We do have a few different things that has come up. We have peer support. 30, 40 years ago, they were still trying to get out of the asylums and have their voices heard. And we had people go before us like Judy Chamberlain and Pat Deegan, and they stood up. So now, what do we do? And we're going to break out into some groups. And what can we do to start this momentum again, to get this going so that we can still get more rights, that we can get our rights back? We haven't quite gotten rid of electric shock therapy. We haven't quite got rid of over medication. You know, we haven't quite gotten rid of putting houseless people in prison or people who have mental health diagnoses in prison, or people who have substance use in prison. We haven't gotten beyond those. What do? So let's break out in some groups for about 6 or 7 minutes and come up with some ideas, please, and thank you. There's the question. Hello? Can you hear me? Okay. All right.
I can hear you.
Okay, I'm gonna try to share my screen and see if that works. I'm gonna try it again. So we had some good conversations going on. Can you see everything now? Am I on? Okay, I see some good heads going. So there was, I'm pretty sure, some good conversation. So let me jump around and let me jump to number 3 first. Who wants to kind of talk about what they shared?
I don't know what number I was, Bronwyn.
I don't know.
Who was in number 3 with me? This is Lauren. There's nobody coming up with it. I don't know. Maybe we were number 3. I was with Laurie and
Lori, Kevin, Caesar, and then Lauren. So that was you. Is what it says for number 3.
Huh. Oh, maybe he didn't show up. Okay. Yeah. Okay. That was us. So we talked about different ways. Bronwyn, can you ask the question?
Okay. So
please.
Okay. So the question was basically, how do we advocate to get the momentum going to make the changes again? What is needed? What do we need to do as advocates?
Okay.
What needs to get?
Thank you. Yeah, we were a little bit confused about the question because we all looked at it and then it went away really quick. So we just didn't quite get it. But what we talked about was different ways to advocate, and we kind of talked about almost in a way circles. So like I work in a smaller circle and I like to advocate by just advocating the peers that I work with, advocating for, and by modeling that and advocating for myself, and also to go out and talk about it in public and, you know, just keep it in the conversations that I have with everybody sort of living, you know, what I do. Kevin is more a person who goes out there and brings people together, and everybody knows he's always talking things up in politics and making everybody aware and advocating for us as a community. So those are kind of, in my mind, 2 opposite ends of the spectrum. Okay. And so one question that Kevin was coming up with, then how do we go to the next step and make that change? Okay. And you know, we didn't get further than that. We were talking most about networking and just talking to the right people, and but we're not sure how to push it forward. So that was what our discussion was about.
Sounds good. I like that. Group number 2, 4. We got 10 minutes and a little bit more information to cover. So if we can be concise, we can get it done. Thank you. Number 2, group 2.
Number 2, Anne, Charlotte, 7, and Stacy.
So we talked about pro bono, lawyers, and peer support for, you know, to advocate more for that. And then we also talked about to break the cycle for people when they are living like in a transitional house. What can we do to advocate for them to not get put back out on the streets again? You know, we seem to have this problem where we have transitional homes to help them for several months, but then we're just pushing them back out on the street and we're cutting all the services off for them. How and what can we do to break that cycle?
Charlotte. Yeah. Okay, number 4.
Hello.
So for number 4, or group number 4, one of the big things we had was to bring awareness, education, and stigma busting to light with a huge focus on the education piece. Better policing when it comes to dealing with individuals with mental health issues. So like the CAHOOTS model that's being used, I believe one of my group members said down in Eugene, just making sure that trying to advocate, I suppose, to have somebody who has a history of dealing with mental illness with the police. That way that's being handled correctly. And then having open conversations about it, starting those open conversations at younger ages and letting people know that it is okay to have the mental health stuff going on. And again, just like back to education and research, or like I said, that was a huge thing for my group that kept getting brought up in one way or another.
Great, thank you. And group number 1.
Okay, so from group number 1, the list I have is for legislation, tell your story to the right people, join an advocacy group or start an advocacy group, be persistent, make sure your voice is heard, join boards and committees, and protesting.
Awesome. And number 5. Group number 5.
That was our group, Braunwynn.
I know. So did
I
anybody?
think we've covered all the groups.
So. Yeah, Deborah, Martha, and Cassandra didn't share. That's the group that I was in. And they didn't.
I'd like to say something if that's okay. What was the question exactly? Because I wasn't able to attend one of the groups.
Well, the question was, let me just pull it back up.
There it is.
Okay, what does advocacy look like to reset momentum in order to make a social change? So I feel like kind of like everything what people were saying, I think communication is key on communication. And I noticed like throughout the years, from 5 years ago from today, mental health is being more noticed and more identified, especially as being a peer support specialist. I think this role of advocating and going through the systems and getting to know people and resources and reaching out will definitely help make a change. I think the consistency will help make a change as well. And just keep branching out and creating new groups and helping the next person succeed, so that way that person can keep moving forward and help the next person, and kind of like a moving chain. So that's all.
Thank you. So the group, the last group, and I'll just share what they had, and I'll share my piece as well, and then we can move on. They talked about and getting, again, like most of us, getting to the people who have the power, like the legislatures, to make the changes and so forth and so on. My experience is that helps, but the wheels on that turns a lot slower. Reason why I say that is because I was on OCAC, and I know some individuals that are on the governor's behavioral health committee. And again, a lot of our voices are not being heard. We're at the tables, but no one's hearing us. We're at the tables where the people with the power are, but they're not hearing us. Someone mentioned, and Ann, can you put it in the chat box, please? Ann Casper, she mentioned that they're trying to come up with some sort of thing in the city of Portland where they're going to divert some of the funding from the police and put it into the mental health. And they're having this big meeting tomorrow. But again, we weren't at the table. There used to be, and I can't call whose name it was, but this was a slogan that they had back in the day. And I've been saying it a lot lately, and a lot more people are saying it. It should be nothing about us without us. There should be no laws, None of that made about us without us. We are human and we have rights. We vote, and our voices should be heard. We have Black Lives Matter. They have started these protests in different areas, but a lot of people don't know it happened. But the legislatures came across June 25th and passed a legislative law called the George Floyd Act, saying that police can no longer do certain brutalities, that they have to be, I'm losing my train of thought. They have to be more transparent, right? Be more transparent about disciplinary actions and misconducts. They have to be open about that. This is not, but a lot of people don't even know that that was even passed. So what happens, or what can we do? Why are we not putting our feet to the floor? Why aren't we filing lawsuits, protests, lawsuits? That's how we're going to get it done. That's my opinion. That's just my opinion. Okay, couple more things and we're going to be out of here. Let me see here. Looks like it doesn't want to play. There it is.
Another question for Dr. Cashy. The use of medications to treat behavioral health challenges or conditions tends to be a controversial topic amongst peers. What would your take be on the use of medications to treat behavioral health conditions?
Okay, so and then I'm going to go to Dr. Cashy and play his video. I'm not going to break us out to talk about this because medication is personal for each and every individual. We all have our own thoughts and opinions about medication, and that's our right as human beings, you know. So I'm not going to break us out to have a discussion about that, but I do want to hear what Dr. Cashy has to say, since he's a primary care physician and he's on a advisory board that's supposed to be helping to advise some things around mental health in Portland. I want to hear what he has to say.
All righty. And our second question for you, Dr. Cashy, is about medications. So the use of medications to treat behavioral health challenges or conditions tends to be a controversial topic amongst peers. What would your take be on the use of medications to treat behavioral health conditions?
Medications can be a really important part of anybody's treatment plan, but they're far from the only part of a treatment plan. The analogy I sometimes use, especially when I'm talking about this with patients, is I think of living a healthy life is sometimes a little bit like building a house. And to do that, you have to be able to use your hands and use all the tools to construct a house, but you also need the tools and the plans that an architect provides to know how to build a functional, stable house. I think for some people, their hands are free and they just need the guidance and the tools and can get to work and build that house for themselves. For other people, they have conditions where it's like their hands are tied behind their back. And if you can have the greatest, shiniest tools and the best laid architectural plans, but if your hands are tied, there's no way you're going to be able to build that house. And that's where medications play a role, to free up people's hands to be able to use their tools to build that functional life for themselves. So I think it becomes an individual decision for, it's not a one size fits all, but it depends on the individual patient and where they are. We know that sometimes brain chemistry goes off the rails and gets imbalanced, and that's where medications can play a really important role in resetting some of those imbalances to help people get to a point where they can live a healthier life.
All right, thank you.
Okay, so that's what Dr. Cashy had to say about medication. So here, it did its own thing. This is my information. There's Mario's information. I want to share a couple of things with you all. If you could take down some information really, really quick, and I'm going to get out of here. I am a part of a group called Surviving Race, the Injustices, the intersection of injustices between human rights, disability, and I'm drawing a blank. However, we have a Facebook group. Actually, go on the Facebook group and sign up. We do workshops throughout the week. On Friday and Saturday nights, I do a jazz series for like 3 hours. 6 o'clock Pacific time, 9 o'clock Eastern time. I have on my t-shirt for the jazz jams. Come join us. There's a couple of people that have joined us. Thursday night, I do a thing called Call to Balance, where I use the 8 dimensions of wellness, and we do a meditation, and we also talk about aligning chakras. And the last thing I would like everybody, if you can, go look for the webinar that Celia and I did for the National Coalition on June the 30th. It is called, Peace, Love, and Justice, Healing Black, Brown, and Indigenous People and Diverse Communities. And we did that on June 30th. The National Coalition on Mental Health Recovery has it on their website. So I want to thank everybody for your patience, sticking around. You have any comments or questions, you can reach out to me, and myself or Mario will be in touch. Thank you from Mental Health Live. Bye-bye.